to challenge a dead world. When the very air becomes the enemy, humanity launched a war. Not against each other, but against the Great Quiet. This is the story of how we lost the color green and forged our own light. It didn't start with a bang, it started with a betrayal. A law that had operated for billions of years, a sacred promise between the planet and its star, was broken. The satellites, humanity's machine eyes, were the first to witness the death sentence. Those closest to the land felt it first, a terrifying quiet. The curse was not confined to the land. It seeped down into the deepest abysses. The world awoke to an unimaginable reality. The knowledge of an entire species proved useless against an invisible enemy. Innocence was the first casualty of fear. The lungs of the planet stopped breathing. Home was no longer home. The supply chain, the lifeblood of civilization, began to seize. The last hope of the old world was placed under the permafrost. The herbivores, the gentlest of creatures, faced a slow starvation. The air we breathed began to change. A silent warning. The Great Quiet had arrived. The ocean, the cradle of life, now a tomb. And then, the very ground beneath our feet began to betray us. With nothing left to hold on, the planet began to tear itself apart. The final diagnosis was delivered. Photosynthesis had ceased. The age of natural life was over. The green death had claimed the surface, but humanity did not consent. Humanity's trial had just begun. Facing extinction, humanity did not choose to flee. They chose to build. Project Ark was born. Not to save two of every animal, but to save the very concept of a green world. The entire resource of a dying planet was funneled into a single purpose. They forged the fortresses of life and the weapons to protect them. These machines carried no bombs. They carried hope, mission, to filter the dust and rebalance the atmosphere. The first war was against the dust. Every square meter of land was reclaimed from the grip of erosion. When there was no more energy from the sun, they turned to the heart of the planet. The second war was against hunger. They searched for new champions for the food chain. They didn't just create food, they created light in the darkness. They recreated a star, a perfect copy of what they had lost. These were the battles of the new era, Machine against chaotic nature. Every filtered particle was a small victory. A race against time, a race against the collapse of the planet itself. The will of man amplified through machines. A moment's respite, another victory. They had created their own fields, the fields of darkness. The legacy of the old world was about to be reborn. An act of faith, a prayer made of technology. A final fortress, an island of life in a dead ocean. The isolation is complete. Let there be light. And humanity, with its own hands, had created a new dawn. Life had found a way back. Time passed. Inside the glass walls, paradise was restored. Memories of the outside world became mere fairy tales. A new generation was born, one that did not know a real sky. But not all of humanity chose to live in walled gardens. Others chose to harmonize with the new world, becoming lighters of the dark. They turned the curse into a source of life. Their myths had no sun, only bioluminescence. To the people of the dome, the outside world was a laboratory. They found something they did not expect. Another branch of humanity. Two versions of survival face to face. One was protected from the world. The other had become part of it. Curiosity overcame fear. This was not survival. This was a civilization. Their knowledge was the knowledge of adaptation. Their knowledge was the knowledge of remembrance. Communication began not with words, but with sharing. A moment of trust. Above, the war of the machines continued. Below, the war of muscle and ingenuity also never ceased. They brought back not just a specimen, but an idea. Two forms of life born from two different worlds coexisting. The existence of others challenged their very definition of survival. They too dreamed of the world above, a world of myths. Two paths, two destinies born from the same catastrophe. A silent witness to the resilience of a species. Even in the new world, old threats remained. But now they were not alone. They had learned to fight together. The new world had its own furies. Adaptation had taught them to listen to the planet's pulse. They realized that survival was not just preservation, it was also transformation. A bridge was built, not of steel, but of understanding. Preservation met adaptation. Remembrance learned from intuition. Two worlds began to merge, creating something entirely new. The future of humanity would not be decided by one, but by both. The beauty of perfection began to accept imperfection. The past was shared. The future was trusted. New roads were formed on the dead land. The geography of humanity had been redefined. The catastrophe became a part of history, a lesson. The catastrophe became a part of myth, an epic. A new generation bearing both legacies held the key. They were no longer just preserving old life. They were creating new life. The circle began to close. The greatest ambition was kindled, Project Genesis. An act of madness, an act of faith. The planet took its first shallow breath in centuries. They had lived long enough to witness the impossible. One worshipped the memory of light, the other became the light. We are no longer the children of the sun. We are the gardeners of our planet.